Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1715 and today's date is November 13th, 2018, and the title of the episode is Fed Rolling Back Tests. It's all being rolled back. Before we get started, I wanted to talk about the patriots that are fighting for our country. Every generation seems to have its own president. Each seems to define an era. Our generation will have Donald Trump as their president. He was the one who took a shattered and broken Washington swamp and drained it. He will be remembered as the president who stood up to the deep state. This holiday season, Noble Gold is offering the solid silver Trump 2020 Freedom Coin. You've probably seen the website, TrumpCoin2020.com. Since they minted this coin back in July, Noble Gold has sold thousands of these beautiful coins as collector items for investments, and even to add to IRAs and 401k rollovers. Yes, because these are 0.999% fine silver. The IRS even allows them to be included in your retirement fund. How about that? And today, there's a holiday special offer on right now. To find out what it is and how you can get a hold of a special gift for your favorite Trump supporter, go to TrumpCoin2020.com and put the code X22 to receive free shipping if you buy 3 coins or more. Don't wait for this offer to end. Go to TrumpCoin2020.com and don't forget the offer code X22. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, we are starting to see the economy around the world fall apart very, very quickly. The other thing we're seeing that everything that was put into place is now being rolled back. And what I mean by that is that the central bankers, the deep state, they put forth certain regulations. They wanted certain things, and we're starting to see a lot of it being rolled back. And we're going to see a lot more of this because why? The Trump administration, the patriots, they need to prepare the United States for what comes after the central bank. Remember, everything that we've been seeing all up to this point has been the central bank economy. They were preparing the United States for something completely different. What has to be done right now, everything has to be unraveled. And they did this on purpose. When I say they, I'm talking about the deep state, the central banks. They put all these regulations in place. They made it impossible for business to do business here. They made it impossible for manufacturing to stay in the United States. All of this was being done on purpose. And now what we're seeing is everything is being removed. Yes, it's not going as fast as everyone would like, but a lot of it's being removed. And the central bank, the deep state, they're going to fight because we have good guys and bad guys intermixed within these organizations. But what we're seeing is that the good guys, they're starting to have the upper hand here. They're starting to push back and push back hard, and they're getting their way. And we're starting to see a rollback of a lot of these regulations, a lot of these ridiculous tests that were absolutely meaningless. All of this is being thrown out the window right now. And the reason for it is so the central bank, the deep state, can be exposed and to prepare the United States for what comes later. And what I mean by that is that what comes later is a new economic system. But when we look around the entire world here, we see the economic system, it is breaking down. And this is the global central bank system. They knew it could not last past a certain period of time. They knew that it would start to break down, and that's what we're seeing right now. Up in Canada, we know that they're in a major housing bubble, and that thing, well, it's going to pop, and it's going to be a complete and utter disaster. Right now, Canadian mortgage credit growth is falling. How bad is it in real terms? Well, people are comparing today's low growth numbers to the mid-90s. Now, there are some parallels, but it more accurately resembles the early 80s. Mortgage credit growth, when adjusted for inflation, is heading towards negative numbers. We haven't actually experienced the negative real growth yet, but it's coming. Now, Canadian mortgage credit growth is pretty weak when looking at unadjusted numbers. The annual pace of growth fell to 3.4% in September, down 38%. Yes, that's 38% from last year. This is the lowest pace since June 2001, and on target to head lower according to recent performance. It's low growth. Remember what happened back in 2008 and 2009, where we saw Canadian mortgage credit growth decline? we're already past that point. We're actually very close to the 2001 point. So when you take the mortgage credit growth and you adjust it for inflation, the picture gets a little bit more dreary for lenders. Real mortgage credit is at a 1.14% growth in September, 71% lower than last year. The rate is falling at nearly twice the pace most people are expecting. Real credit growth hasn't been this low, again, since 2001. It is a complete and utter disaster, and it's likely to turn negative. I mean, this does not look good whatsoever. If we look at Caterpillar, now, we talked about Caterpillar quite a bit during the Obama reign, and the sales for Caterpillar, they were a complete and utter disaster. Sales started to pick up for Caterpillar when Trump came into office, and this was done through manipulation, allowing countries to feel like everything is getting better, especially here in the United States. But what we're seeing once again is that sales are starting to drop. Remember, what happened here was a temporary fix. This wasn't supposed to be a permanent fix for all these corporations, for the people of the United States. It was to allow the system to go a little bit longer, to get everything in place, and guess what? Roll back all the regulations. And roll back as much as you possibly can before the entire system implodes. Now, we know gold has been manipulated for a very long time, and a lot of people going back many, many years said, this is a conspiracy theory. Gold is not manipulated. This is the real price of gold. Well, no, we now know that it is manipulated. Actually, a J.P. Morgan Chase trader pled guilty to gold manipulation. This trader turned state's evidence. So gold and silver investors got some good news that the conspiracy is no more. And we've known this with silver, and many more people are going to get caught on this. But the real manipulation comes from the central bank. These are just the, outliers, the people that are manipulating that really can affect it, but not like the central bank. Now, John Edmonds admitted to cheating the bank's clients and plenty of other people naive enough to expect fair treatment on the COMEX and other exchanges. Mr. Edmonds is ratting out some fellow traders. This is just not a one-person scam. It's many people together, including senior traders. There are also immediate supervisors. So what we're seeing right now is that this is just not a rogue individual, a one-off player. This is many people working together to manipulate, just like when they manipulated the LIBOR interest rate. And we know that they throw tons of paper contracts at gold to bring the price down. And we know that the true price of gold, the way the dollar is today, would be much, much higher, because the dollar has lost 98% of its value. When the central banks lose complete control of the system, they're not going to worry about gold. They're not going to be worrying about the manipulation. They're going to be trying to hold everything together. And I'm talking about the bad guys in the Fed, especially the Rothschilds, the upper central banks. They don't want the central bank to be responsible for a system coming down. Why? Because then another central bank or private central bank will be blamed. Then another one will be blamed. And then before you know it, people will be looking at this saying, well, wait a minute. Does this system really work? Why would it be crashing right now? The whole point of the private Western Central Bank is to help the system so people can prosper. But we know this is not really what's happening here. We know that the central bank is a private corporation and they do everything for themselves. Now, like I said in the beginning, a lot of the regulations are starting to be rolled back. TPP, you name it, they're rolling back taxes, regulations, and you have to, because these regulations and everything was put in place to force companies out of the United States. Remember, they had a completely different plan before Trump came into office, before the Patriots were in office. So their plan was completely different. To reverse everything right now, well, it takes a little bit of work, and you need key players in certain positions. And we know that Q did mention right in the very beginning and listed all the different banks and said these are the Rothschilds banks, and they were all around the world in almost every single country. And I think what's happening right now is countries, the big ones, China, Russia, the US, and there are some outlying smaller countries that will get in on this. And eventually when the deep state leaders of many other countries are removed, those countries will join in also. And what's happening right now is there's going to be a push to get this private Western central banks out of these countries. Actually, Russia has already taken over their private Western central bank. They make the rules. They have very little bit of debt. And this is why the central bank hates them. The central bank doesn't have control over a country that is not in debt. If you're not in debt, they can't make you do things. They can't make Russia do anything. And this is what the central bankers hate the most. But here in the United States, the Federal Reserve right now is reducing the volatility of stress tests for the nation's largest financial institutions. They decided, you know something? We don't need these tests right now. It's being rolled back. So the Fed is proposing changes that are designed to roll back Obama-era financial regulations, which consists of annual procedure in which the Fed grades banks on their ability to withstand a severe economic crisis. Now, why was this put into place? Well, back in 2008, 2009, when the whole system came down, they needed a way to convince everyone that the banks are strong. So they created these fake tests, and they put out any type of data they really wanted. They weren't really real tests. They were manipulated to make it look like the bank was doing fantastically. And they used these tests. And people said, wow, everything is strong. No, actually, it was the opposite. The banks aren't strong. The system is built on an illusion. The system is not strong. They convinced the population by creating bubbles. They convinced the population by manipulating data. They convinced the population with stimulus. So when you look at the economy and then all of a sudden it falls apart, even though they tell you it was contained, that everything's great, housing doesn't go down, we're not predicting a recession, well, you know it's all fake. They know it's coming down. And what I think is happening right now, all of this is being rolled back to expose the central bank. Eventually what's going to happen is the central bank is going to be exposed for what they've done. And when the people and countries scream for transparency, when they scream for an audit because of what has happened, and Trump points the finger and says, yes, it is the central bank. They're the ones who caused all of this. This is when we learn the truth. This is when the people around the world realize what has been happening for hundreds of years. That we've been enslaved in a central bank system. This is when we break free. This is when we say no more. And that day is coming. Q has already told us about it, warned us about it, that it is coming, listed the banks, let us know that these are the Rothschilds banks, let us know that the Fed is independent of the government, is a private corporation, above the laws. Well, that just can't be. And it's time to get rid of the central bank. And that is what is coming. Now, before I forget, don't forget to follow me on Minds. That is minds.com. It is free to join, and actually by commenting and posting, you will earn cryptocurrency. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.